Dr. Eliza Chen jolts awake as her mining pod's proximity alarm blares. She had been conducting a routine asteroid survey in the debris field beyond Outpost 7 when her sensors detected an anomalous radiation signature, one that didn't match any known element. Exiled to this remote mining colony after challenging the Galactic Confederation's suspicious security protocols, Eliza has learned to trust her instincts. She navigates toward the signature, heart pounding as she discovers not an asteroid, but a partially intact alien vessel embedded in the rock. The ship is nightmarish in design, organic curves interrupted by crystalline growths, with technology that seems to pulse and react to her presence. As she approaches in her EVA suit, the vessel's damaged hull ripples like liquid metal, forming an opening. Inside, she finds the desiccated remains of a crew unlike any species in the Confederation records. At the ship's core, a crystalline matrix throbs with impossible colors. When she attempts to scan it, her equipment fries instantly, and the outpost's oversight aide demands her immediate return. Instead, she calls the one person she still trusts, Marcus Wong, an engineering genius whose rebellious nature cost him a prestigious position on Earth. "Marcus, I found something they've been hiding from us," she whispers into her comm. "And I think it's why they've kept humanity on a technological leash." Eliza's breath fogs her helmet as she waits at the extraction point. The derelict ship looms behind her, its exposed systems occasionally discharging arcs of energy that illuminate the asteroid's cratered surface. Her suit sensors detect approaching engine signatures. Marcus's salvage skiff. The skiff touches down in a swirl of regolith, and Marcus emerges wearing a patchwork EVA suit decorated with unauthorized modifications. His eyes widen as he takes in the alien vessel. "That's not in any Confederation registry," he says, voice tight with excitement. "Those biomechanical interfaces, they're decades beyond what the Arcturians claim is cutting edge." "Look at this." Eliza guides him to a section where the hull has been sheared away, revealing internal systems. The power conduits aren't sequential. They're recursive. The energy doesn't flow. It cycles back on itself. Marcus runs a modified scanner over the exposed systems. "These alloys don't match anything in our database." He pauses, frowning. "And my scanner's picking up molecular degradation consistent with weapons fire, not meteor damage." "Someone shot this ship down," Eliza concludes, "and then made sure it stayed hidden." As they penetrate deeper into the vessel, the walls begin to pulsate with faint bioluminescence, responding to their presence. In what appears to be a command center, they discover data crystals intact within radiation-shielded compartments. "Help me with this," Eliza says, pointing to the central crystalline matrix. They work quickly to disconnect it from the ship's systems, the crystal's colors shifting erratically as they break each connection. Marcus checks his heads-up display. Atmosphere's changing. The ship is releasing some kind of gas. Programmed defense mechanism or decomposition? Eliza asks, securing the last crystal in her sample case. "Neither," Marcus replies grimly, pointing to his scanner. "It's a distress beacon, electromagnetic and chemical. And something just acknowledged receipt." They rush to collect the most critical components, working with desperate efficiency. As Marcus detaches a final processor node, his scanner alerts him to approaching vessels. A massive shadow passes overhead, blotting out the stars. Through a breach in the hull, they glimpse a Confederation dreadnought moving into position, its weapon arrays powering up with a blue-white glow. They're not here to study it, Marcus realizes, watching through his binoculars. They're here to destroy it. "We need to move. Now." Eliza grabs the sample case and pushes off toward the exit, using the minimal gravity to her advantage. The dreadnought's targeting systems activate, bathing the derelict in scanning beams. Marcus and Eliza flatten themselves against the inner hull as a smaller Confederation vessel dispatches 4 environmental assessment drones. "Standard containment protocol," Marcus whispers. "They'll verify it's clear of organics before they vaporize it." Eliza checks her oxygen levels. 22 minutes remaining. We can't outrun those drones in open space. Marcus studies the ship's internal layout, mentally calculating distances. We won't have to. This way. They navigate deeper into the vessel's bowels, past chambers where the alien architecture becomes increasingly organic. In one room, what appears to be navigation equipment has partially merged with the walls, creating a neural network of technology and biological matter. These beings didn't build ships, Eliza says in awe. They grew them. The distant whine of the assessment drones echoes through the corridors. Marcus leads them to what resembles an escape pod bay, where a single intact pod remains. Unlike Confederation designs, this one appears to be a semi-organic bubble with crystalline veins running through its translucent skin. Can you fly it? Eliza asks. Doubtful, Marcus replies, but I can repurpose it. He pries open a maintenance panel and begins rerouting systems with practiced hands. Outside, the Dreadnought's main cannon begins charging, creating a static field that makes their suit hairs stand on end. The assessment drones are methodically working through each chamber. Whatever you're doing, hurry, Eliza urges, dividing her attention between Marcus's work and the scanner tracking the drone's positions. Almost there, Marcus mutters, connecting the final circuits. This pod's stealth systems were designed to mask organic signatures. If I'd done this right. He seals the panel. We should be invisible to their scanners. A blinding flash illuminates the chamber as the Dreadnought fires its first warning shot, deliberately missing the derelict to test its defensive capabilities. The impact sends tremors through the asteroid, dislodging debris around them. Time to go, Marcus says, helping Eliza into the modified pod. Its interior reshapes to accommodate them, the walls pulsing with amber light. Marcus interfaces his suit with the pod's navigation, and the pod detaches from its moorings, slipping out through a breach in the hull. They drift away from the derelict, using the asteroid's rotation for cover. Behind them, the Confederation Dreadnought positions itself for a killing shot, its main cannon now fully charged. They're being thorough, Eliza observes, watching through the pod's translucent shell. This isn't standard salvage protocol. This is sanitization. The Dreadnought fires, and the derelict ship explodes in a silent flash of blue-white energy. The blast wave catches their pod, sending it tumbling toward the asteroid field's edge. Marcus struggles with the alien controls, eventually stabilizing their trajectory. Why would the Confederation destroy evidence of an unknown species? Eliza wonders, clutching the sample case containing the crystalline matrix. Unless they already know about them, Marcus finishes. And they're hiding something big. As Outpost 7 appears in the distance, they power down all but essential systems, plotting a circuitous route that will allow them to approach from the maintenance sector. The pod's organic systems adapt to their needs, reconfiguring to minimize energy signatures. Whatever we found, Eliza says, studying the crystal's shifting colors through the case's observation port, the Confederation was willing to risk an interstellar incident to destroy it. We need to understand why before they realize what we've taken. With alarms blaring across the outpost, Eliza and Marcus race through maintenance tunnels, the stolen alien components hidden in modified mining equipment. The crystalline matrix, now contained in a makeshift dampening field, pulses faster in rhythm with their racing hearts. When a security checkpoint blocks their path, Marcus makes a desperate decision. He presses his palm directly against the matrix. Instead of the radiation death he half expected, his consciousness expands. He sees star maps, battle formations, and most disturbingly, Confederation leaders meeting in secret with representatives of an insectoid species that resembled the corpses aboard the derelict. They've known about them for decades. He gasps when the vision ends, blood trickling from his nose. The Void Collective. That's what they call themselves. The Confederation isn't protecting us. They're using human colonies as buffer zones while they build their real defenses around their homeworlds. At Eliza's hidden lab, they decrypt data fragments from the ship's memory systems. What they discover shatters their understanding of humanity's place in the galaxy. Comprehensive assessments of human physiology that label humans as dangerously adaptive and cognitively unpredictable. More shocking is a Confederation directive explicitly forbidding humans access to 37 critical technologies that other younger species were routinely granted. When Eliza's lab door explodes inward, they barely escape through a maintenance shaft. Their pursuer, Agent Talvac of Confederation Security, pauses to examine their research. Inform the Council. He speaks into his comm. The humans have discovered Project Firebreak. Escalate containment protocols. The maintenance shaft leads them deep into Outpost 7's recycling sector, where massive machinery processes the colony's waste into usable materials. They crouch behind a filtration unit as security drones sweep the area, their sensor beams cutting through steam clouds rising from chemical vats. What is Project Firebreak? Eliza whispers, carefully extracting the alien crystals from their mining container and transferring them to her specialized research kit. Marcus winces, pressing his palm against his temple. It's fragmentary, like trying to remember someone else's nightmare. The Confederation discovered the Void Collective 70 years ago, when one of their scout ships breached our galaxy's edge. He closes his eyes, accessing the lingering connection. There was a war, brutal, fast. The Collective adapts too quickly for conventional tactics. A security drone hovers nearby, its optical sensors rotating methodically. Eliza holds her breath until it moves on. The firebreak was their solution. Marcus continues, voice hollow. Create a buffer zone of expendable worlds between collective space and their core systems. Younger member species were granted colonization rights in these regions, while being denied the technologies that might help them detect the approaching threat. The implications hit Eliza like a physical blow. Earth's admission to the Confederation. Our rapid colonial expansion program. We were never partners, Marcus confirms bitterly. We're sacrificial pawns. A proximity alert on Eliza's wrist computer flashes red. Security forces converging on their position from multiple directions. They need to move, but the main exit points are already covered. We need a distraction, Eliza says, eyeing the chemical processing system. She quickly accesses the control panel, overriding safety protocols to create a cascading failure in the filtration system. Warning klaxons blare as caustic chemicals mix, creating toxic fumes that trigger emergency containment procedures. Automated systems seal sections of the facility, inadvertently creating an escape route through rarely used maintenance corridors. As they navigate the labyrinthine passages, Eliza's comm intercepts a Confederation security broadcast. All units, Priority Alpha. Human subjects Chen and Wong to be terminated immediately. No evidence recovery required. Eliza freezes, the implications clear. They're not even trying to recover the artifacts anymore. Because they'd rather destroy the evidence entirely than risk it spreading, Marcus concludes, we need to get off this outpost. They reach a junction where maintenance corridors connect to the outpost's transport hub. Security personnel swarm the area, their weapon signatures registering on Eliza's scanner. Between them and potential escape lies 50 meters of exposed corridor. There, Marcus points to a cargo transport being loaded with mineral samples bound for the orbital processing station. If we can reach it. A shadow falls across them. I thought I might find you here. The voice belongs to Dr. Reman Kapoor, Eliza's former research assistant before her exile to Outpost 7. His expression is unreadable as he steps from an alcove, a Confederation security badge gleaming on his chest. Eliza's hand moves toward her concealed cutter. Raman, don't. He raises a hand. Security has reconfigured the checkpoint scanners to detect those crystalline fragments. You'll never make it through. He removes his security badge, dropping it to the floor. But I still have clearance to authorize emergency medical transports. Say, for researchers exposed to toxic fumes during an industrial accident. Why would you help us? Marcus asks suspiciously. Rahman's expression hardens. Because I've seen the Confederation's casualty projections for the human colonies. My family is on New Terra. He produces a medical transport authorization chip. This will get you to the orbital station. I have associates who can help you from there. A distant explosion shakes the corridor. Security forces breaching another section. Time is running out. Take this. Eliza removes a data crystal from her kit, pressing it into Rahman's hand. It's encrypted with everything we've learned. If we don't make it, don't talk like that. He interrupts, but pockets the crystal. The medical transport leaves from Bay 7. You have 4 minutes before the next security sweep. As they part ways, Rahman's final words follow them. Find the truth, Eliza. All of it. The medical transport bay is minimally staffed. A single technician who barely looks up as Rahman's authorization chip clears their passage. The automated transport pod is sterile and cramped, designed for emergency medical evacuations. Setting course for orbital medical facility, the system announces as the pod seals. Marcus immediately accesses the control panel, bypassing the pre-programmed destination. We can't risk the orbital station. They'll have security waiting. Where then? Eliza asks, securing the alien artifacts in a radiation-shielded compartment. The asteroid mining cluster, Zone 14C. Marcus punches in coordinates. It's technically off-limits. Radiation hazard from a cracked reactor core 10 years ago. Perfect place to disappear while we figure out our next move. The pod disengages from the outpost with a mechanical shutter. Through the viewport, they watch Outpost 7 recede, its familiar industrial sprawl now transformed into hostile territory. Security vessels swarm around the main docking bays, but none move to intercept their medical transport. As they accelerate toward the mining cluster, Eliza unpacks the alien components, spreading them across the pod's fold-out table. The matrix is still active, she notes, observing its pulsating glow. And it's responding to something. Marcus stares at the devices. Not something. Someone. He points to a secondary crystal that has begun to synchronize its pulses with the primary matrix. They're communicating with each other. And if I'm right about what I saw in the vision. He carefully positions the crystals in a specific configuration, based on fragments of memory from his brief connection. The crystal's glow intensifies, projecting a three-dimensional star chart into the air between them. A blinking indicator marks a position near the galaxy's outer rim. What is that? Eliza whispers. If I'm right, Marcus says grimly. That's the Void Collective's invasion fleet. And based on these temporal markers, he studies the projection. They're already on their way. The cramped maintenance level of abandoned mining station X-17 becomes their unlikely headquarters. Eliza and Marcus, now joined by Dr. Janelle Washington, a quantum physicist who faked her own death after discovering her research was being sabotaged, huddle around the alien artifacts. Janelle's eyes widen as she examines the crystalline matrix. This isn't just a power source, she whispers. It's a dimensional anchor point. The Confederation told us such technology was theoretically impossible. They're interrupted by the arrival of Commander Rafael Ortega, whose military shuttle docks under false credentials. He tosses a data stick onto their workbench. Fleet deployment plans, he explains grimly. Human ships are being positioned to absorb the first wave of an invasion. We're the cannon fodder. When Dr. Sanjay Patel joins them days later, bringing stolen communication algorithms, the team is complete. While the Confederation searches for terrorists, this unlikely group works with salvaged equipment and improvised tools, approaching alien technology with distinctly human methodology. The Arcturians would never do it this way. Janelle laughs as they deliberately overload the Matrix to observe its fail-safe protocols. They'd spend 50 years building theoretical models first. When Marcus suggests connecting the Matrix directly to human neural patterns, a technique explicitly forbidden in Confederation guidelines, they take a vote. This could kill us, Eliza warns. But the interface works, revealing that human minds can process the technology's dimensional aspects in ways the rigid thought patterns of older species cannot. Their first successful test causes a power surge that blacks out half the mining station. As emergency systems activate, Ortega receives an alert. The Confederation has labeled them terrorists and issued shoot-on-sight orders. The test chamber fills with acrid smoke as cooling systems struggle to dissipate the energy discharge. Janelle's modified interface helmet lies melted on the floor, but the data streams across their makeshift screens, confirming what seemed impossible. The dimensional synchronization rate is 87.4%. She announces, her voice hoarse but triumphant. That's nearly triple what the Confederation protocols predicted for inferior species like us. Sanjay studies the output with growing excitement. The Matrix isn't just responding to human neural patterns, it's amplifying them. When we think intuitively rather than following rigid protocols, we're actually more compatible with the technology than the elder species. Eliza finishes. Ortega, ever practical, scans the security feeds. Fascinating breakthrough, but we've got problems. That energy surge was detectable from orbit. We have company inbound. Through the viewport, they spot a Confederation scout vessel approaching the mining station, its sensor arrays active. The team rushes to conceal their equipment in radiation-shielded compartments designed to hide illegal mineral extractions from official inspections. We need more time, Marcus insists, reluctant to abandon their progress. Another week, and we could have a working prototype. We don't have a week, Ortega counters, checking his tactical display. We barely have an hour. Eliza studies the station schematics, searching for options. The reactor core is still hot from the old meltdown. If we can create a controlled radiation leak. Too dangerous, Janelle objects. The Confederation ships have better radiation shielding than we do. What about the dimensional displacement effect? Marcus suggests suddenly. Our tests showed spatial distortion even without a proper focusing array. Eliza catches his meaning immediately. You want to weaponize an untested technology we barely understand. Not weaponize, Marcus clarifies. Misdirect. We create a controlled dimensional anomaly, just enough to confuse their sensors. Janelle runs rapid calculations on her pad. Theoretically possible, but we'd need to modify the matrix configuration. And we'd need someone to manually maintain the field harmonics. The automation algorithms aren't stable yet. I'll do it, Sanjay volunteers. When the others protest, he holds up a hand. I have the best neural synchronization scores, and someone needs to stay behind to wipe the systems after you're gone. Reluctantly, they begin preparations. Ortega and Eliza transfer their critical research data and salvaged components to a mining shuttle hidden in the secondary maintenance bay. Marcus and Janelle reconfigure the crystalline matrix to generate a localized dimensional distortion field. This should create a sensor blind spot approximately 20 kilometers in diameter, Janelle explains. But the effect will degrade rapidly, 10 minutes at most before the field collapses. Sanjay dons the neural interface helmet, wincing as the connectors calibrate to his brainwave patterns. Counting on you to find a better solution than this rig, he tells Janelle with forced lightness. Next version needs cup holders. Through the station's external cameras, they watch the Confederation vessel establish a holding pattern, deploying smaller craft that begin a systematic search pattern. Time is running out. Remember, Eliza reminds them as final preparations are completed, we're not just running from the Confederation. We're racing against the Void Collective. According to the projections, their advance fleet reaches human space in less than 3 months. 47 human colonies in their projected path. Ortega adds grimly. None with adequate defenses. The countdown begins. Sanjay activates the dimensional field, his face contorting with effort as he mentally guides the crystalline energies. The station's lights flicker, and through the viewport, space itself seems to ripple like heat haze above desert sand. Field stable, he reports through gritted teeth. Better move fast. This feels like trying to hold back a tidal wave with my mind. As they make final preparations to board the mining shuttle, a sudden alert sounds. Additional Confederation vessels detected. Ortega announces, checking the long-range scanner, a destroyer class and 2 interceptors. They're not taking chances. Go now, Sanjay urges, blood beginning to trickle from his nose as he maintains the field. I'll expand the distortion to cover your escape vector. The team makes hurried farewells. As Eliza boards the shuttle last, Sanjay hands her a data crystal. Neural pattern recordings from our tests. The connection goes both ways. The technology adapts to us, but we adapt to it too. There's something happening to our brains during contact. Something evolutionary. The shuttle detaches from the station, its engines silent as it drifts into the dimensional distortion field. Inside the field, conventional sensors are useless, forcing Ortega to navigate using the modified detection systems they've developed based on the alien technology. We're clear of the station, he announces as they reach the field's edge, preparing to engage main engines once we're beyond the distortion effect. Behind them, the mining station shimmers within its dimensional bubble, already beginning to fade as Sanjay's strength wanes. The Confederation vessels circle like predators, unaware that their prey has already slipped past them. Where to now? Janelle asks as the engines power up. The only place the Confederation won't look for us, Eliza answers. The frontier colonies. We need to warn them what's coming and build something that can fight back. Dawn breaks over the gas giant Helios 9 as their stolen mining vessel, now barely recognizable, emerges from the planet's repair dock. The ship, rechristened Prometheus, represents 3 months of feverish work. Its hull, reinforced with adaptive materials derived from the alien vessel, ripples with subtle iridescence. Inside, the crystalline matrix has been integrated into a human-designed propulsion system that bends conventional physics. During their test flight, Eliza pushes the ship beyond its projected tolerances. When Marcus protests, she reveals intercepted communications. The Void Collective isn't coming. They're already here. Scout ships have been detected in the Ta-CD system. Their debate is cut short when Confederation patrol vessels appear, weapons locked. As Marcus frantically attempts to activate their untested defensive systems, Dr. Washington makes a startling discovery. The ship's systems are reacting to their emotions, strengthening as their fear intensifies. "Stop trying to control it," she shouts. The technology responds to intuition, not logic. When Marcus releases his tight control and lets instinct guide him, the Prometheus executes an impossible maneuver, phasing partially through dimensional space. The pursuing ships fire, but their weapons impact an empty pocket of space where the Prometheus had been microseconds earlier. When the ship reappears, Marcus instinctively activates a defensive pulse that freezes the Confederation ships in a temporal bubble. Their weapons still firing, but the energy bolts suspended mid-trajectory. As they escape, Commander Ortega stares in disbelief at the sensor readings. "We didn't just evade them," he says quietly. "We just demonstrated technology that the Confederation has deemed impossible for the last 300 years. The Prometheus shudders as they push the dimensional drive beyond the safety parameters established during their rush trials. Warning indicators flash across the command console, but Eliza overrides the automated shutdown sequences. "We need to reach safe distance before the temporal effect collapses," she explains, rerouting power from non-essential systems. "When those ships report what happened, the Confederation will deploy everything they have to hunt us down." The view screen shows the impossible. Stars elongating not into the linear streaks of conventional FTL travel, but fracturing into prismatic patterns as the ship skims along the boundary between normal space and something else entirely. Janelle monitors the crystalline matrix, which pulses erratically as it channels energies never meant for human technology. "The integration is unstable," she warns. "The matrix is adapting to our modifications faster than our containment systems can compensate." A sudden surge of energy cascades through the ship's systems. Control panels explode in showers of sparks, and the artificial gravity fluctuates wildly. For a moment, everyone experiences a nauseating sensation of existing in multiple locations simultaneously. Emergency shutdown. Marcus shouts, frantically working the controls. The dimensional boundaries are becoming permeable. Through the viewport, they glimpse something impossible, a momentary overlay of alternative realities. In one, Earth burns under collective bombardment. In another, an unrecognizable Confederation fleet advances toward an alien armada of incomprehensible design. What is this? Ortega demands, gripping his station as reality stabilizes. Dimensional bleeding. Janelle answers, her voice filled with equal parts terror and scientific fascination. The drive isn't just moving us through space, it's showing us probability threads. Elisa studies the readouts, making rapid adjustments to the power distribution. Can we use this? See which future we're heading toward. That's not how it works. Marcus interjects, manually rerouting coolant to the overheating matrix housing. These aren't predetermined futures, they're potentialities, quantum states in flux. The ship lurches again as the drive finally stabilizes. On the navigation display, they've traveled nearly 20 light-years in minutes, far beyond the pursuit range of the Confederation patrol. System check, Eliza orders, moving methodically through the damage assessment protocols they'd established during their hurried training. Life support at 82% and holding. Ortega reports. Weapons systems. He pauses, frowning at his console. Online but reconfigured. The defense array has integrated with the dimensional drive somehow. That's impossible, Janelle says, moving to his station. We designed them as separate systems specifically to prevent feedback loops. Marcus runs a diagnostic, his expression shifting from concern to wonder. The ship is evolving. The alien technology isn't just accepting our modifications, it's improving them, like it's learning from us. A proximity alert interrupts their discussion. A massive ship appears on their sensors, approaching rapidly. Its configuration matches no known Confederation or human design. Collective. Eliza asks tensely. Ortega shakes his head. Negative. No match to the intercepted collective profiles either. He enhances the sensor reading. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. Some kind of distress signal. The unknown vessel dwarfs the Prometheus, its hull patterned with intricate geometries that seem to shift when viewed directly. As they approach cautiously, they detect significant damage to its propulsion systems and evidence of weapons fire. It's a refugee ship, Marcus realizes, analyzing the energy signatures, using technology similar to the derelict we found, but more advanced. And it's been running for a long time. Elisa makes a decision. Prepare for docking procedures. Whatever it is, it's been targeted by the same forces the Confederation is hiding from us. As they maneuver alongside the massive vessel, their comm system activates independently, translating an alien signal into halting human language. Descendants of Earth, comes a voice unlike any they've heard, multiple tones speaking in unsettling harmony. You have awakened the Harbinger technology. You have broken the quarantine. You must be prepared. Prepared for what? Eliza responds. A docking port opens on the alien vessel's side, revealing a cavernous bay where dozens of ships similar to the derelict they discovered lie in various states of repair. To fight as we could not, the voice answers. The collective is merely the vanguard. The true enemy follows. Ortega's tactical display suddenly lights up with new information transmitted from the alien vessel, star charts marking the progress of something vast moving toward the galaxy. My God, he whispers, the Void Collective isn't invading. They're retreating from something else. As the Prometheus enters the docking bay, they see the ship's inhabitants for the first time. Beings of crystalline structure similar to the matrix they've been studying, but formed into humanoid shapes that move with fluid grace. We are the last of the precursors, the voice continues as one approaches their airlock. And you are the inheritors we have waited for. Humans, the only species whose minds can truly wield what we created. The Prometheus drops out of dimensional shift into chaos, a pitched battle between Confederation forces and sleek black ships of the Void Collective. On the main view screen, they watch in horror as 3 human colony ships attempt to evacuate Outpost Minerva, only to be methodically destroyed by Confederation escorts withdrawing to defensible positions. "They're sacrificing our people," Ortega growls, slamming his fist against the console. When Eliza attempts to intervene, the Confederation flagship targets the Prometheus, declaring them rogue agents of the Collective. Their desperate escape takes them to the asteroid belt known as the Scatter, where ships without Confederation registration find haven. The Fringe Coalition, a loose alliance of human independents, exiled scientists, and species who rejected Confederation membership, greets them with drawn weapons and suspicion. Coalition Commander Harriet Wu, a legend among human independents, examines their ship with calculated interest. "You've built something impossible," she acknowledges. "Now prove it isn't a trap." Their opportunity comes sooner than expected when collective scout ships trace their dimensional wake to the hidden Coalition base. As panic erupts and Coalition ships prepare for a doomed last stand, Ortega proposes a strategy that violates every principle of Confederation tactical doctrine. Instead of concentrating their forces, he suggests using the Prometheus as bait, while smaller vessels execute micro-jumps to attack from constantly shifting vectors. "Conventional tactics won't work," he explains. "The Collective predicts patterns, so we need to be pattern breakers." The resulting battle becomes the stuff of legend. The Prometheus dances through dimensional space, drawing collective fire, while Coalition ships strike from impossible angles. When the dust settles, the collective ships retreat, leaving behind the first significant victory against the invaders. In the battle's aftermath, Commander Wu studies the exhausted team. "The Confederation fears you because they can't control you," she says finally. "The Coalition will support you for exactly the same reason." The Coalition's central command hub buzzes with frantic activity as tactical officers analyze the battle data. Eliza stands before the Leadership Council, which consists not only of humans but representatives from a dozen species that had broken from Confederation rule. "The Precursor's technology gives us an edge," she explains, "but only if we completely abandon conventional Confederation warfare doctrine." She gestures to the holographic simulation showing their recent victory. Their tactics are based on centuries of unchanging protocol, and that predictability is their greatest weakness. A Thraxian counselor, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the command center lights, clicks his mandibles skeptically. "You expect us to trust human intuition over proven methodology. Your species has barely mastered interstellar travel." "That's precisely why it works," Marcus interjects, stepping forward to modify the simulation. "The Confederation, and by extension, the Collective, has optimized their tactics based on logical progression and patterns established over millennia. They literally cannot comprehend strategies that prioritize unpredictability over efficiency." Commander Wu nods in agreement. "We've all witnessed it today. My tactical officers reported 17 violations of basic combat doctrine during the engagement, maneuvers that should have resulted in our annihilation according to Confederation models. Instead, they gave us victory." The Nexian representative, a being of liquid crystal contained within an environmental suit, pulses with skeptical colors. "Yet we're still outgunned and outnumbered by both the Collective and the Confederation. One victory doesn't win a war. Which is why we need to share what we've learned," Eliza insists. She activates a secure data module, projecting images of the precursor vessel and its inhabitants. The technology salvaged from the derelict was just the beginning. The precursors have provided us with schematics for integrating their dimensional technology with our existing ships. The council chamber erupts in overlapping questions until Commander Wu raises her hand for silence. "Dr. Chen, you're suggesting we base our defense on technology provided by an unknown species, one that admits to being hunted to near extinction. How do we know this isn't simply transferring our fate to theirs?" Janelle steps forward, manipulating the holographic display to show detailed scans of the precursor technology. "Because they're not asking us to replicate their methods. They recognize something in human neural patterns, a fundamental difference in how we perceive reality. Our unpredictability isn't just tactical, it's woven into our consciousness. Consciousness is precisely what makes this dangerous, counters a Solarian elder, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with concern. The Confederation restricts dimensional technology because of the consciousness bleed effect. The barriers between mind and machine break down. Your crew has already experienced it. Marcus touches the neural interface port, now permanently embedded at his temple, an unexpected side effect of their early experiments. You're right. The technology changes us. But we're changing it too. The precursors built tools that think like them. Linear, predictable. When humans interface with it, the technology becomes something new. A system alert interrupts the debate, long-range sensors detecting multiple Confederation vessels entering the asteroid field. The Coalition base activates its stealth systems, but it's clear their victory has drawn unwanted attention. We're out of time for debate, Commander Wu concludes. The question before this council is simple. Do we commit to this path, modifying our ships with technology that violates everything the Confederation has taught us is permissible? The vote is far from unanimous, but with the Confederation forces closing in and the collective threat looming beyond, desperation outweighs caution. The Coalition commits its resources to what they now call Project Prometheus. The following days blur into weeks as the Prometheus team works with Coalition engineers to adapt the precursor technology for a wider range of vessels. The process isn't simply technological. Each ship requires a human pilot willing to undergo neural integration, permanently linking their consciousness to their vessel's dimensional systems. We're creating a new kind of warfare, Ortega observes as they watch the first squadron of modified fighters perform maneuvers that bend physical space around them. Not just human pilots flying ships, but humans becoming one with their ships. Elisa studies the pilot integration data with growing concern. Each successful merger reinforces what the precursors had told them. Human minds adapt to the dimensional technology in ways no other species can match. But the adaptation works both ways, the human consciousness expanding into something not entirely human anymore. We're weaponizing ourselves, she confides to Marcus as they observe the latest pilot integration. Turning human intuition and unpredictability into the one thing the Collective and Confederation can't counter. And if we succeed, he asks, already knowing the answer, then humanity will never be the same, she responds, watching as the pilot's neural patterns synchronize with her ship's dimensional matrix. The question is whether what we become will still be human at all. The manufacturing facility hidden within the hollowed-out moon of Deimos hums with activity. 3 weeks after the Coalition's victory, Dr. Washington has simplified the alien technology to its essential components. We can't replicate the Matrix, she explains to the gathered Coalition captains, but we can build systems that channel its effects through specifically calibrated human neural networks. The result is the Neural Amplification Drive. Deployable units that allow human pilots to execute dimensional shifts and energy manipulations that should be theoretically impossible. What would take Confederation engineers years of precise calibration, human intuition accomplishes through adaptation and split-second creativity. When the Void Collective launches a major offensive against New Terra, humanity's oldest extrasolar colony, the Coalition deploys their first converted fleet. The battle that unfolds confounds both Confederation observers and Collective tacticians. Mining ships phase through Collective destroyers, rematerializing inside their shields to deliver devastating strikes. Passenger liners, retrofitted with temporal displacement fields, create bubbles of accelerated time that age Collective organic technology into decay. The prison transport, its convicts now volunteer pilots, sacrifices itself to collapse a dimensional pocket around the Collective flagship, sending it hurtling into an orthogonal reality. When the battle ends, New Terra stands, damaged but undefeated. The cost is high. 30% of the human vessels are destroyed, and many survivors suffer neural burnout from pushing the technology beyond safe limits. But the collective's anticipated easy victory has become their first major defeat. From the Confederation flagship observing from the system's edge, Arcturian High Commander Thorell watches with a mixture of awe and horror. They're using the technology like barbarians, he tells his council. No simulations, no safety protocols, no coherent doctrine. His aide finishes the thought. And they're winning where we could not. The aftermath of New Terra transforms the Coalition overnight. What began as a desperate gamble becomes Operation Dimensional Shield, a full-scale production initiative linking the industrial capacity of 17 independent colonies. On Deimos, Janelle supervises the construction of integration chambers, where volunteer pilots undergo the neural linking procedure. The precursors created the technology, but they never imagined using it like this. She tells Eliza as they observe a former asteroid miner emerge from the chamber, neural filaments now permanently embedded beneath his skin. They designed it as a research tool, a way to observe dimensional boundaries without crossing them. Humans have always repurposed technology in ways its creators never intended. Eliza replies, reviewing the pilot's neural scans. The wheel became the chariot. Nuclear energy became the bomb. And now dimensional observation becomes dimensional warfare, Janelle concludes. The production facility expands, consuming ever more of Deimos' interior as raw materials pour in from Coalition outposts. Every available ship, from mining vessels to luxury yachts, undergoes conversion, their original systems replaced or augmented with the dimensional technology that allows them to slip between realities. The medical bay, once a small triage center, now occupies an entire sector of the facility. There, Dr. Liana Kapoor, Raman's sister who joined the Coalition after her brother's execution by Confederation forces, studies the physiological changes occurring in integrated pilots. Their neural architecture is evolving. She explains to Eliza, displaying comparative brain scans of pilots before and after multiple dimensional jumps. New synaptic pathways forming, particularly in regions associated with spatial awareness and time perception. It's like their brains are rewiring to better interface with dimensional concepts. Is it dangerous? Eliza asks, studying the images. Define dangerous, Liana responds with clinical detachment. They're changing, certainly. But into what? She displays the scan of a pilot who's completed over 30 combat jumps. Captain Rivera can now perceive four-dimensional space intuitively. He reports seeing the dimensionality of objects, how they exist through time as well as space, useful in combat, but he's increasingly detached from conventional human perception. Before Eliza can respond, Marcus enters the medical bay, his expression grim. Coalition long-range sensors have detected a massive collective fleet assembling at the edge of the Arcturus system. This isn't a raiding party, it's an invasion force. The command center transforms into a hive of activity as the Coalition leadership assesses this new threat. Tactical displays show over 200 collective vessels, far more than they've previously encountered in a single formation. They're adapting. Ortega observes, studying the enemy fleet configurations. Tighter formations, overlapping shield geometries. They're developing countermeasures to our dimensional tactics. Commander Wu turns to Eliza. How quickly can we deploy the remaining converted ships? We have 47 vessels with integrated pilots ready for combat, Eliza reports. Another 35 in final conversion stages, but their pilots are still adapting to the neural interface. Not enough. Wu concludes, not against a force this size. Janelle, who has been analyzing the collective fleet's energy signatures, suddenly straightens. These readings don't make sense. Their power distribution is all wrong for offensive configurations. Marcus joined her at the scanner station, his neural filaments interfacing directly with the system to enhance the data resolution. She's right. They've reinforced their rear guard at the expense of forward offensive capability. Almost like they're expecting to be pursued. Ortega finishes. It's not an invasion formation. It's a fighting retreat. The implications silence the command center momentarily. Eliza is the first to speak. The greater threat the precursors warned us about. It must have finally reached collective territory. We need more information. Wu decides. Before we commit our forces, we need to understand what we're really facing. Marcus volunteers before anyone can ask. The Prometheus can slip past their formation using the enhanced dimensional drive. If we can capture a collective command vessel, we may access their tactical data. The mission is authorized despite the risks. As the Prometheus prepares for departure, Eliza finds Marcus in the integration chamber, undergoing final neural synchronization with the ship's systems. This is beyond dangerous, she tells him, watching as the neural filaments pulse with energy. If the collective has adapted to our dimensional shifts, then we'll adapt faster, he interrupts. That's our advantage, isn't it? Human unpredictability. The ability to improvise. Eliza studies her friend. The changes in him obvious to someone who knew him before. His movements have become precise in a way that seems almost inhuman, his gaze occasionally unfocused as he perceives realities others cannot. Just remember what we're fighting for, she says finally. Not just to win, but to remain ourselves. Marcus smiles, though the expression doesn't quite reach his eyes. Define ourselves, Eliza. We crossed that line the moment we interfaced with the technology. The question isn't whether humanity will change. It's whether we'll direct that change or let it direct us. The Confederation Council chamber falls silent as Eliza Chen enters, flanked by Marcus and Commander Ortega. After months as fugitives, they now stand before the very powers that tried to eliminate them, invited under a flag of truce as the collective pushes relentlessly toward the Confederation core worlds. You have violated our most sacred technological restrictions, the Arcturian Council leader intones. Yet we find ourselves requiring your unorthodox approaches. The negotiation that follows is tense. The Confederation demands oversight of all human applications of the alien technology. Eliza counters with total technological disclosure and the immediate promotion of all younger species to full Council status. When the Council balks, she activates a holographic projection showing the collective's advance and the Confederation's systematic abandonment of non-core worlds. You've been fighting this war for 70 years, she states flatly. You're losing because you refuse to adapt. We can help you win, but not as subordinates. The resulting alliance is fragile but transformative. Human engineers, finally given access to Confederation technology, combine centuries of alien advancement with human intuitive leaps. Dr. Washington and Arcturian scientists develop a hybrid propulsion system that allows for controlled dimensional phasing. Sanjay Patel, working with telepathic meridian navigators, creates a neural network interface that can predict collective movements by sensing dimensional disturbances. At Proxima Centauri, the collective deploys its armada, 300 ships surrounding a massive vessel that dwarfs even the largest Confederation dreadnought. The combined human Confederation fleet seems hopelessly outmatched. The battle begins disastrously. Conventional Confederation tactics prove ineffective against the collective's adaptive shields. Human dimensional tactics work initially, but are quickly countered. As defeat looms, Eliza implements their final, desperate strategy. Operation Fractal. Dozens of small human ships, each piloted by a volunteer directly neural-linked to their vessel, execute synchronized dimensional shifts that create a cascading pattern of reality fractures around the collective armada. The Confederation flagship, equipped with a modified version of the original crystal matrix, fires a beam of concentrated dimensional energy into the center of the pattern. The resulting reaction doesn't destroy the collective ships, it does something far more profound. The dimensional cascade rewrites the neural organic technology, binding the collective consciousness, severing their hive-mind connection. Collective ships, suddenly piloted by individuals rather than a unified intelligence, fall into disarray. As the battle turns, Marcus detects an energy surge from the collective mothership. They're initiating some kind of self-destruct, he warns. Without authorization, Eliza and Marcus take the Prometheus into a desperate dimensional jump, phasing directly into the mothership's command center. What they find there, the true nature of the collective and the reason for their invasion, changes everything they thought they knew about the conflict. The Prometheus materializes within the cavernous command center of the collective mothership, reality rippling around them as dimensional barriers stabilize. What they find is not the insectoid warriors they expected, but empty control stations, organic mechanical interfaces waiting for operators who aren't present. It's automated, Marcus realizes, scanning the systems with his enhanced perception. The entire ship, it's running on pre-programmed routines. Eliza moves toward the central command interface, where holographic displays show the ongoing battle outside. That doesn't make sense. The collective is supposed to be a hive mind species. Where are they? As if responding to her question, a section of the organic wall pulses and separates, revealing a chamber beyond. Inside, suspended in a nutrient bath, floats a single being, not the insectoid warrior they expected, but something more akin to a massive brain with tendrils extending throughout the ship's systems. Last survivor, it communicates directly into their minds, its thoughts fragmented and weak. Last seed. Marcus approaches cautiously, his neural implants resonating with the being's telepathic field. You're not an invasion force at all, are you? Preservation fleet, the entity confirms. Carrying. Genetic legacy. Seeking. Habitable space. The self-destruct sequence continues to count down as Eliza accesses the mothership's database through a neural interface port. What she discovers confirms the entity's claim. The collective ships carry the genetic material of thousands of species from their home galaxy, preserved in stasis. The insectoid warriors they occasionally deployed were merely automated defense drones. They're refugees, she tells Marcus, fleeing from something called the Convergence, a force that's consuming their entire galaxy. Why not explain this to the Confederation? Marcus asks the entity. Why the secrecy? The attacks. Attempted communication. 70 cycles ago. The entity projects weekly. Confederation elder species. Recognized threat pattern. Implemented quarantine protocol. Would not listen. The implications hit them like a physical blow. The Confederation hadn't just been hiding the collective from humanity. They had recognized the greater threat beyond and chosen a policy of isolation and denial rather than preparation. The dimensional technology. Eliza realizes, studying the data streaming through her interface. The precursors developed it to fight the Convergence. Failed, the entity confirms. Convergence adapts to all strategies eventually. Consumes. Incorporates. Coming here now. Warning alerts flash across the command center as the self-destruct sequence enters its final phase. Marcus works frantically to abort it, interfacing directly with the ship's systems. I can't stop it. The sequence is hardwired into the ship's organic components. Eliza makes a split-second decision. We need to preserve their knowledge. Download everything you can about the Convergence and their dimensional technology. As Marcus connects to the ship's archives, the entity reaches out with a tendril, touching Eliza's neural implant. A flood of images assaults her consciousness, worlds consumed by something that defies description, a force that exists simultaneously in multiple dimensions, absorbing technologies and species into itself. You have advantage, the entity projects. Human unpredictability. Dimensional affinity. Take Seed Vault. Section 12. Continue our work. Outside, the battle continues as Confederation and Coalition forces mop up the now disorganized collective vessels. None of them realize that the true victory isn't the defeat of an enemy, but the acquisition of knowledge that may save them from a far greater threat. Prometheus to all allied vessels. Eliza broadcasts as Marcus secures the genetic vault. Clear a path from the mothership. We have critical intelligence and limited time before detonation. As they prepare for emergency dimensional jump, the dying entity shares one final thought. Beware Confederation Council. Some among them prefer extinction to evolution. The Galactic Confederation's Grand Assembly Hall, once a monument to hierarchy and tradition, has been transformed. where once only the eldest species held central positions. Representatives of all member races now sit in concentric circles. At the assembly's focus stands a mixed delegation, humans alongside Arcturians, Meridians with Taotians, each contributing to the presentation of the harmonic accords. 1 year after the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the galaxy has fundamentally changed. The revelation from the collective mothership that they were fleeing an even greater threat from beyond the galactic rim has recontextualized the conflict. The collective's hive-mind approach had been their adaptation to apocalyptic stakes, sacrificing individuality for survival. The Chenwang integration protocols are now in effect across all Confederation territories, announces the Arcturian speaker. All technological restrictions based on species classification have been abolished. The results of this new approach are displayed holographically above the assembly. Human intuitive engineering combined with Arcturian precision has created dimensional transit systems that connect formerly isolated regions. Meridian empathic sciences merged with human psychological frameworks have begun healing traumatized collective survivors, restoring their individuality while preserving their technological knowledge. Most significant is the new deep space exploration vessel revealed in orbital dock above, the Odyssey. Built with technology from all member species and designed to probe the extragalactic threat, it represents the first true collaboration of equals in Confederation history. As the assembly concludes, Eliza finds Marcus at the observation deck, watching construction drones swarm around the Odyssey. They've both declined prestigious positions in the new Confederation structure, preferring to lead the first exploration mission into the unknown. Think they'll ever understand why we succeeded where they failed? Marcus asks, gesturing toward the Arcturian delegation. Eliza watches as a human engineer and an Arcturian designer argue passionately over a holographic schematic, their debate gradually transforming into collaborative problem-solving. They're learning. She replies with a smile. The collective thought their hive mind was the ultimate adaptation. The Confederation thought their rigid order was the answer. But it turns out the real superweapon was something else entirely. Unrestrained curiosity. Marcus finishes her thought. That Eliza agrees, and the human ability to look at the impossible and say, let's try it anyway. As they turn toward the shuttle that will take them to the Odyssey, notifications flash across their neural interfaces, new breakthroughs in dimensional mechanics, innovations in cross-species communication, and warnings about the approaching extragalactic anomaly. The future holds new dangers, but for the first time, they'll face them not as restricted subordinates, but as full partners, humanity's ingenuity finally unchained. The Oversight Committee meeting convenes in a secure chamber beneath the Assembly Hall. Here, representatives from the elder species and the emergent human leadership discuss matters too sensitive for the General Assembly. The dimensional boundary probes have confirmed it, Dr. Washington reports, projecting a holographic model of the galactic barrier. The convergence has established beachheads in 7 locations along our rim. Conservative estimates give us 5 years before major incursion. The Arcturian High Elder, whose species once dominated Confederation policy, steeples his elongated fingers. The Preservation Directive would suggest immediate evacuation of rim territories and concentration of defenses around core worlds. The same strategy that failed against the collective, Commander Ortega counters. We can't repeat old mistakes against a more powerful enemy. Liana Kapoor, now heading the medical division studying neural integration, brings up another holographic display. Our integrated pilots are showing unprecedented adaptation rates. The third-generation neural interfaces allow for complete dimensional perception without the dissociative effects we sought in early subjects. You've solved the consciousness bleed problem, asks the Meridian representative. Not solved, Liana clarifies. Directed. Rather than fighting the neurological changes, we're guiding them. Pilots retain their human identity while gaining expanded perceptual capabilities. High Commander Thorell, who once viewed human tactics with horror, now leans forward with interest. The precursor archives suggested such balanced integration was theoretically possible, but had never been achieved. Because they approached it through purely logical frameworks, Eliza explains. The key breakthrough came when we stopped trying to control the process and started working with intuitive resonance patterns. A Thraxian counselor clicks his mandible skeptically. Yet we cannot integrate our entire civilization. Even with accelerated training, we can only field a limited number of dimensionally capable defenders. Marcus nods in acknowledgement, which is why we've developed a different approach for our main strategy. He activates a secure data module, revealing schematics for a massive installation. The Dimensional Reactive Array. The hologram shows a vast network of interconnected stations positioned at strategic points throughout the galaxy. Each node contains modified crystalline matrices linked to central control hubs. Instead of trying to defeat the convergence through conventional warfare, Marcus explains, we create a galactic immune system. When the convergence attempts to breach dimensional boundaries, the array detects the distortion and generates a localized dimensional reinforcement field. You're not trying to destroy it, the Arcturian realizes. You're containing it. The convergence adapts to any attack, Eliza confirms, but adaptation requires interaction. If we can prevent it from establishing footholds within our dimensional space, we deny it the opportunity to learn and evolve. This is unprecedented, the High Elder says finally. The scale alone would require resources beyond anything the Confederation has attempted. Which is why we need true cooperation, Eliza responds. Not just between our species, but with the collective survivors and the remaining precursors. Every perspective, every approach to problem solving. The meeting continues long into the night, debate and discussion gradually transforming into planning and coordination. What emerges is not merely a defensive strategy, but a new vision for galactic civilization, one that values diversity of thought as its greatest strength. Aboard the Odyssey, preparations for the first expedition into the dimensional boundary reach their final stage. The crew, drawn from all member species, undergoes final integration with the ship's systems. Each brings unique perspectives and capabilities, but it's the humans who will pilot the vessel through the dimensional barriers. In her quarters, Eliza reviews the final mission parameters when Marcus arrives, his expression betraying concern beneath his usual confidence. The precursor representative shared something troubling, he tells her. Their mathematical models suggest the convergence isn't just a random evolutionary outcome. It's an inevitability. The end state of technological civilization without sufficient diversity of thought. You mean it's what we could become? Eliza asks. What any of us could become, Marcus corrects, if we valued efficiency and uniformity above all else. The ultimate expression of order without creativity.